Thank you, Lewis, and hello, TLDC. My name is Chrisana Paxton McMillan, but my preferred name is Chris. I'm the president, instructional designer, developer, and custodian at D3 Training Solutions for Design, Develop, and Deliver. I'm a white female in my early 50s. I wear glasses, have graying blonde hair, and my pronouns are she and her. And today, as I get this video started here, I will quickly share 5 of my favorite tips and tricks to reduce your Vyond development time while increasing your production level. Now, if you aren't sure what Vyond is, it is an online or cloud-based animation tool that allows anyone to make and publish videos or animated GIFs. And depending on your license, you can also download the image files to use in a client storyboard, or you can download the Vyond Storyboard PowerPoint, which I'll show you guys shortly. Now, depending on how long you've been in the field, you may have first encountered this software as Goanimate. And as we can see, someone's getting a little impatient with me and wants to share our 5 tips. And they are assets and their organization, the shift key, custom characters, templates, and the quick access. Go ahead and pause this here. Now, before we jump in, let me tell you what I believe is the difference in the license types. And I am not a salesperson for Vyond, but there are 4 types: Essentials, Premium, Professional, and Enterprise. Professional and Enterprise enables you to have a PowerPoint client storyboard, which I can show you guys here. And what this is actually the demo I put together, and then I just exported it into a PowerPoint, and it gives us space there for the description. You can also have the ability to download the actual image files. It's kind of small. Let me make that a little bigger. You could still do this by doing just screenshots, but it's a little faster doing it this way. The other difference between with professional and enterprise, I also encourage you to check and verify your transfer rights. I transfer the source video files and all assets to my clients, and this can be done with a per video charge or a flat rate. I personally pay the flat rate. If you have someone creating videos for you, again, I would make sure they can transfer them. And how does that work? They would simply go into your options. And again, we can see here's my download scenes for image and PowerPoint. And rather than just share, which is within your team, I can share it as a template. And that is how I get the source files and such to my clients. They, of course, have to have a Vyond license. Now let's jump actually into Vyond. This is a video I created for this particular session, and my first time saver is about assets and their organization. Vyond has thousands, and I'll go through here. Here's characters, props, charts, and such. Thousands of props, assets, and characters to choose from. What happens when they don't have what you need? Well, you need to come up with your own. Vyond will accept images like JPEGs and PNGs, audio, MP3s, WAV files, fonts, TFF files or OTF files, along with videos as MP4s. Now, I prefer PNGs due to their transparent background, and I find them several places that I just want to point out. The eLearning Brothers has thousands of icons and things that I use all the time when I'm working on projects. There's also some software called Presenter Media. This is a really great little site, and let me actually do a search here for Office. And I want to adjust my filters to animation and clip art. We'll take a moment there. This is very affordable at $49.95 per year, and you can get $10 off with their Refer a Friend program. Here's the code for my Refer a Friend. And for full disclosure, I do get a free month, but once you sign up, it is open and available to anyone. So you can, again, do the same thing. I also create my own PNGs from places like Canva, which you'll be discussing on Friday, and of course, PowerPoint. Another site I want to show you is a tool to remove backgrounds. Now, of course, you can remove backgrounds in PowerPoint. You can also do it in several of the Adobe products, but sometimes it's a little bit challenging. So there's another site called remove.bg, and I'm just going to show you a sample here of some sessions that I did for accessibility. I'm going to drop this image in. We can see the original image really quickly there, and we can see it remove the background. Now there's still a little cleanup to do on here, and I probably should have picked something maybe where her hand would look so funny once the background was removed, but it is a great way to get that background, and it's sometimes a bit cleaner than using PowerPoint. Then I can actually download that and use it. Now, as we go along, because this is a recording, since I was having some technical difficulties, I live in rural Oklahoma, so I use satellite for my internet, and it was rainy the day of the session. Please feel free to reach out to me via email, on the Slack channel, or within LinkedIn, and I'll post some of my contact information at the end. I'm going to go ahead and minimize some of this just so I don't have as many things open to take up that bandwidth. And go ahead and jump into our session. Now, this particular session is one I did for drug and alcohol prevention. So it's talking about your brain and how your brain works on opioids. Now, we all, of course, know the brain. We think of the brain as gray matter. And I could have used an actual image of a brain, but I didn't. In this case, I actually just used, I just kind of wanted that feel versus the brain. So this is just a shape I use to get that rounded feel as I put on there. But let me get that kind of in place there. But one of the things when we're designing is how do we make sure we have things centered on the page? Because it's a little bit challenging on here. In the lower right-hand corner, there is a drop-down arrow that you can choose and show grids. And this isn't the grids like the PowerPoint days where it was all over the place, but it actually gives you 9 little grid lines, and it's kind of hard to see on here. So let me actually insert a new blank page. So now we can kind of see those on here. And this gives you the ability to kind of either place things in the proper area and just kind of lay things out to where it fits the way you want it to fit. I'm going to take those away. Is sometimes wondering, how do I get things centered? And actually, I'm going to just make it a little smaller so you can see it better. Well, when I place things, no matter what it is on there, there's these green lines. And we can see now I have that green line showing as soon as I left click, that lets me know that this is vertically centered on my page. I can also continue, and I should get that green line. Yep, there it goes, horizontally centered. So I know if I release my artwork right here, that was truly centered horizontally and vertically on the page. So use those green lines. I have a lot of people say, well, they've seen them, they just didn't know what they were for, and that can be a really big help. Now, if you haven't been in Vyond even in the last few weeks, things have changed a little bit. One of the first things is they have changed quite a bit about the scene library and the media library. And I'm going to start by coming up here to the top with the media library. And previously, if I wanted an asset from another video, I would have to remember what video it was in, and then I would have to save the project I was working on, find that video, copy that image or icon, that asset that I needed, then go back into the video I was working on and then paste it. And it really took up a lot of time. And you guys are going to love this if you use this. They have changed that a bit. So now let's say I want something from another course. Again, I'm still going to have to remember what course it was in. I can actually just locate it and add it in. And again, this is a vintage TV that I found from Presenter Library. Really handy, saves quite a bit of time. So that's our media library. The other is our scene library. And this opens up, there you go, a full panel of scenes. Now this used to be above the timeline, above the ruler. And by moving the scene library from the timeline to the left-hand side of the studio, you can find all the content you need now to add to the video all in the same area. So hopefully that makes things a little bit easier. And I can go through and I can search. So let's say I want to search security. You can see here are several different templates that we've added, and I added one in right here. Because when you add them in, a lot of times just use it as a starting point to maybe get ideas from, and you can make changes to it. So let's say I want the sky darker. You can make that sky just a little bit darker, make it almost a little bit scarier. Maybe not quite that dark. And you can see how it works. You can also do that in searching your own scenes, but the challenge to this is you need to make sure you name your scenes. So I can go over here to my library. I'm going to clear that out, and we can see here's some scenes that I've saved. I can click on security. And we can see I have 3 here. Now, know that you can name them not just things like security, but you can have multiple names. So this one is not only security, but it's also a world map. So I could use it, of course, for security, or maybe I could use it showing something like the viruses or the cure passing around the world and how it works. So lots of different ways, but the key to this, for it to work well for you, is again to make sure you name them. Let's move over to our next one, which is our second item, which is our shift key. Now that sounds a little odd that would be a favorite of mine, but normally when you go, and this is just a button asset, if I wanted to make changes, okay, the button, no problem, it does it proportionally. I can also adjust it because it has a lot more handles on it. But if I look at something like the smiley face, it can only adjust proportionally. Well, I don't want it to be proportionally. I wanted to make it really squished, like it had gotten flattened or something. So I can hold the Shift key down. Notice it gives me a few more handles. And now, if you wanted to make your smushed happy face, you could do so. The same is true with objects. This is supposed to be a database. Again, this would be the normal. I would be making adjustments to it, and it is always proportional. But if I hold my Shift key down, I can now make adjustments to it, not proportionally. And then when I make those changes, then when I go to adjust proportionally, I can. So hopefully that saves quite a bit of time from having to maybe go through and customize your own. You can kind of customize and tweak things in there. Now, if you've been using Vyond for any length of time, let me go over to our characters. You can definitely recognize many of the characters. So I think having a series of custom characters is huge. Once you create these characters, you can also customize them for different jobs, different roles in their life, or again, you can age them. Now, these are the characters. They don't name them. They just call them casual as far as basically their category. Let's go over here to mine. So I can go to my library, and we can see I have a tendency, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, I have a tendency to name them really the project I'm working on. So in this case, this was a character in mentoring. She was also in mentoring. Let's see, he is in media ready. Again, another mentoring. So, and some of the times I name them. Okay, so this was a project and the character's name was Patrick. And I do this to, again, keep myself organized. So I'm going to come back to this in a moment. I want to bring up another version I have of Vyond, because one of the things I also do is I provide my clients kind of, and myself really, a list of basically what all characters, so I can visually see what characters I used in a project. This works great if you've kind of got smaller projects. This particular series here is a series for insurance company. We have done, this one's on group life, and I did 6 videos. We've done, I've been working on this for 2 years. So we've done a lot of projects here, and we've used a lot of characters. So in this particular case, we're doing a lot of stories about these characters and their lives. So we also keep a spreadsheet where we list the character's name, we list who their job is. So they're the CEO of this company, they're the HR person, they're the wife, they're a student, they're whatever. And then we make sure that we use them consistently throughout all the courses, and we list in that spreadsheet what videos they've been in. So when the client comes back saying, hey, we've seen this person too much, they're in every video, we can go back and say, well, actually not quite every video, they're in these videos. Or we can look and say, oh, wait, yeah, he was a janitor in this video, and in this one, we've got him as a CEO, which would be great. But is that really what they want? So I would also encourage you guys to keep some type of spreadsheet or whatever, or keep a list of things like this so you can kind of keep them organized. Now I want to show you another sample because, again, you may want to take that same character and they change positions. In this particular one, again, it was over life insurance and tax treatment, and the person actually had a part-time job. So how do I represent this person having a part-time job? Well, I change his accessories, and we'll talk more about accessories here in just a moment, but let me go ahead and click play. And we can see, ta-da, now he is dressed and ready for his part-time job. Let me show you one more. In this particular one, again, life insurance, we're talking about aging. So showing that the life insurance can be there for the entire age. Okay, and I will stop that one. And let's go back into Vyond. Here's a close-up look of what some of the samples would be when I'm showing my clients which one I'm actually using, or maybe which ones I'm thinking about using. And think of real-life people you know to make examples. This particular one here, again, I call her Riley because a friend of mine's daughter was the inspiration, but it is Riley. But the attention to detail on here, if you look closely, you can tell she's got a cochlear implant because Riley really does. And so it's helping me hopefully be very inclusive with who and what I know. Okay, and as we look over here, we can see those that we morphed. Again, I also call them morph to begin, so that way I can tell which ones I have built. So I could actually do a search for morph, and I can see which ones are there. We can see here she was in her teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Now, you don't have to start these from scratch each time. We're going to start with this lady who I call Morph HR 130. So I'm planning on morphing her. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say more. And I'm going to copy and edit character. And it's going to say, do you want to save? And it's like, yes, of course I do. And jump ahead. Actually, it's basically asking if you want to leave. So we have this character here, and she looks pretty good. One of the things that Vyond has done a lot, if you haven't been in it in the last few years, is they've added a lot more hairstyles and really made things more current. So we've got some things here so we can actually add some color and design to it. So I think that's fantastic. But I'm going to scroll back up here to her style where we left it. And we can see some of them already have highlights built in. Sometimes you can change those highlights, sometimes not. I'm going to go ahead and change to a style like this. That looks a little more mature than her current style. But I want to show her with gray hair because I'm imagining her in her 60s. So if I don't know the color, I mean, I can kind of play around here and look for a color. You don't know, just Google and check and see. I need a hex color for khaki pants. I need the hex color for denim. I need a hex color for gray hair. And that'll usually get you kind of in that range. And then you can just kind of go through and play to figure out what hair color you want it to be. And I think that looks like a good gray. So I'm going to leave her at that. But she still looks really young. A couple things I also like to do is, since I've changed her hair color, I also want to change her eyebrow color. That kind of drives me nuts. So, okay, so now we have her eyebrow color as gray also. I think that makes it look a little more, hopefully authentic. So let's come over here to our accessories. And what I want to do is add some smile lines to her, not to me. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start by adding the smile lines. That looks pretty good. That's helped. But I also need to add some wrinkles around the eyes to her, not me. And I'm going to click away. I need to add an accessory. If I went to do it in the previous one, it would override. So I will add those smile lines and the smile laughter lines. So that looks pretty good through there. I can then go through, let's go back, and as people age, they usually, they're not quite as slender maybe as they were when they were younger. So I'm going to show something that maybe isn't quite so form-fitting. So I'm going to go up to her top, and I'm just going to look for something that's still nice, appropriate for work, but not quite so form-fitting. Even if there were different colors, I can always change those colors. Oh, that looks really kind of formal there. Okay, that looks pretty good. I may want to do something like, let's go over here and add some eyewear to her. And we'll add those, except I don't want them in white. So I'm going to choose my color and change that to black. Now I think that looks pretty good. So before I go through and finish this out, I like to name it up here just so I don't forget. So I'm leaving it at the morph, HR1, because she's kind of one HR person. I have several HR people. And I'm going to change that to, instead of in her 30s, I'm going to change her to her 60s, and I'll click save. And add to video. And that really just means go back to video. But that does, I now see them up here. And if I go over to that page we were on, I can add her in. And granted, it'd probably look a little more authentic if she didn't immediately go from one to the other. But now we can see they still have the same facial structure. They still have the same skin tones. We've just aged them up a little bit. So hopefully that helps you out and can streamline your people. The other thing you can do is, we've got my library. There's also the ability to share your library. And let me open up another version. And I want to show you a couple things on here because we're going to look at something here in a moment. But if I were to look at, let's go into here to my character, and I can see here's my library, but I can also look at the shared library, and I can see the assets that either I've shared with them, or they have also shared with me. And then we can again see some of them are named. Some of them aren't. Yeah, nope. Actually, most of them are named on here. Employee 1, 2, 3, 6. I mean, that's still named, so we can go through and search. Okay, and last but not least would be steps 4 and 5 of my favorites, which would be those templates and the quick access. And if you've been using Vyond for a while, you know when you go and you hit new, this is what it looks like, which is okay. But I'm tired of seeing that all the time. And Vyond has a lot of templates that you can access through your own in the scene library. So I would just go over here to my scene library, and I can go through and again search for scenes like we talked about earlier. But I strongly encourage you to set up your own template. And so here is a sample of my template. Let's go ahead. I'm going to close this down and open it up. And let's go over here to my videos. So here's my master template. One of the first things I do to make sure I don't mess up my master template is I copy to. And I'm just going to copy it right back here. But that way I keep my master template looking exactly how I want. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and edit it. In this particular case, I have my logo on here, but if I was working on something for another client, I would probably create another template, put their logo in here. So if it needed branding of any type, I mentioned you can reach out to me. This is my LinkedIn handle if you want to reach out to me there, along with my email address, or if not, you can reach me on the Slack channels. I'm almost always at my computer. But when I am developing, I will start with a template. And one of the reasons is I'm tired of that one, but it's got elements that I use and I use a lot. One of them is this ribbon. I use these ribbons a lot kind of for these headlines that maybe come in and backgrounds just to give a little animation if I'm not in the middle of having a story to tell. Once I create kind of that rough template, I then go through and I add my audio file. And most of my clients use professional audio that they send to me. I'm going to go here to my upload files. I'm just going to locate one. There's one. Now, when you're previewing the file, probably the last 2 seconds, it will start fading out the audio, even if there's still a lot left. So here we can see this is 10 seconds. It would start fading out at 8 seconds, and that's not what I want, which is one of the reasons I add these placeholders. I will do things like I stick a blank title after my first one, and then I drag this along because a lot of times I listen. I mean, I've got the script out, but I want to listen to how they're saying it too. And that way it helps me visualize, again, how I'm building this, what I want to do, and I don't have it fading out and then stopping. So that's one of my first things that I do that saves some times. The other thing is I keep this placeholder here just to remind me as I'm building, because sometimes this stuff takes days to do, that I need to make sure I delete anything behind it so that I don't have all this extra junk that I've put in has to save me some time, because that would not go over well. So I put this placeholder here, and again, everything behind that, I know I just need to delete automatically instead of having to remember, well, where's the actual screen end? Where's the screen start? Then from there, I have elements that I use a lot in my training. So I have a tablet, I have a cell phone, I have sticky notes. This is a text message that I created actually in PowerPoint, and I can still tweak it and everything within Vyond. As far as the background, I have an email response, another one that doesn't have words. I have different letters. Now, Vyond has paper and stuff, but sometimes I want my own paper. So here's some stacks of paper, different notebooks, folders. This is an email if I want it to look more like a real Outlook email background. That's an email background that created and used. Let me hit undo. That's quicker. Okay. Different computer monitors if I don't want one of their computer monitors. But then I also keep in here shapes that they have that I may want to use a lot of. And these are shapes that you may notice this little icon over here in the upper right-hand corner that says mask. I use a lot of masking shapes. They are just amazing. So I've got actually 3 on here right now, including the speech bubble. But a lot of times I don't want the speech, I'll just pull that part out. So, but it's still, sometimes they give me just kind of some interesting shapes that I want. And in this particular case, he's actually in a mask. So what do I mean by masking? Let me show you a sample. Again, we've got another life insurance one. This was permanent life insurance, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you. These are actually individual masks, but I wanted the people to come up. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So those are actually 6 bubbles or with the people actually in them, and they're layered on top of each other to achieve this look. And that's exactly what I've done here. So if I double click on here, I can see here's my guy. And again, I can edit and I can move. It doesn't have to necessarily be people. It could also be shapes. So I can double click it, click mask, add an asset. Let's go over to our props. Let's go animals. And let's do a beehive, because I do still show the animation inside there. Oops. Double click. Let's beehive going like that. Okay, so now if I were to go preview, it may be a little small to see. You can hear the audio there. But you could also see those bees actually moving. Now, then I can go through, since that one is clear, I could actually just place this one right next to it, which I'm not sure why I would have him next to, so calmly next to, that looks more like a hornet's nest, but I could go through and do that. Now, it doesn't have, Vyond doesn't have, that I know of, at least, a transparent. So this is actually the same background. You'll notice if I click on it, let's click away, we can see it's the same blue, but what I do is you go into, again, the kind of the hamburger sign over there, and you can change the opacity to 0. Okay, one last thing to talk about that kind of ties into the templates is I also save things in the quick access. Now, what is quick access? So we'll go over here into the character, and I can go into video contents, and it's going to show me everything that is in this particular one, including what is in the quick access. I can do the same over here with their actions, and this is where I find it really helpful. So we've got him just kind of standing there. But if I click on video contents, I'm going to see all of these quick access. You can actually have up to 30. When you add an item to the quick access, you do it by right-clicking. Let's do it from the elements. So I could right-click this item and add it to a quick access. You can also do this with colors. Right-click on the color, add to quick access. So if you have your template of colors that are approved by your marketing department. If you have frequently used props, which is really what I've done here, the audio, character actions, and more, you can add those. Now, the problem is this is per project. So once you create a new project, those are gone. And I like to use a lot of the ones where they're actually moving. So if I wanted him walking, I could type in, so let's just do, gotta click on it. Let me just add a new character. It'll be easier. Go to my business friendly characters. I'm going to actually go to my library if I want. And we're going to go over here, and I'm going to add employee number 1. I'm going to make them a little bigger. And I have them, I like them doing a lot of movements. And so in this particular case, I want them to walk. So I could go through and type in walk. And we can see there's 122 different walks, including a horse riding walk, carrying boxes. If I'm going to be that specific, I'm probably going to add the word boxes or something like that. I just want to see the ones with the regular walking. Well, even still, there's some that it's like, okay, there's race walking. Here, it looks pretty good. That's walking, hand in pocket. That looks pretty good, but that's, so we'll try that one. But guess what? That's walking backwards. It's not what I want. So what you can do is if you save them into your, just go over here to my quick access, I can then see, again, here are the 30 that I use a lot of, and we can see there's one there for walking. Okay, there's also several there for them talking and presenting and so forth. So that is huge, and that probably saves me just a ton of time. So that is it actually for today. Thank you so much for your patience. Sorry about the technical issues the other day. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions on anything, please let me know. Hope to see you at future sessions, and take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.